So I don't think I even need to go over the fact that this is stupid. For one, using our bodies for labor is all work is. Whether you do sex work or not, it doesn't matter. You're still using your body to make money. This puritanical idea that the minute that sex is involved, we suddenly need to feel all icky about it is really, really awkward to me. All right, guys, so this one is a bit close to home and also not at the same time. So there's a virtual reality sex worker who got denied entry into the United States because of prostitution. That was the reason that was given there. And we'll get into this and the problems I have with this, but let's get into the fan art section first. There's a lot of stuff to talk about here, but let's go ahead and get into it. The very first piece of fan art, first one here, is from Clovered Heart, a Catgirl sketch. Might finish it later. I like the form factor on this one. We'll see how it turns out. The next one we have is from Pernia, and it is a Velma Dinkley Cirrus, because I did that one episode talking about the Velma show. To be honest, I still need to finish the Velma show so that I can talk about it again if it fixes itself. We'll see. We'll see. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. But with that said, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and let's go ahead and get right into everything now. So, I hate the Vice website because it tries to be like, aha, you scrolled up slightly. Do you want literally our advertisements? Do you? Do you want Jerkmate advertisements? We know you're talking about a sex worker. That means you want Jerkmate advertisements, right? Right? Anyway, so a virtual reality sex worker claims that she was denied entry to the United States on basis of prostitution despite doing online legal work. The person in question's name is Hex, and Hex makes a living in virtual reality. She is an online sex worker hosting shows and posting photos and videos from a social VR platform called VRChat, which we've already I've done some VRChat stuff, inspired neon outfits. Hex had plans to travel from the UK to visit her friends in the United States this year and applied for a tourist visa. But in late January, she said she received a letter. Is all work is. Whether you do sex work or not, it doesn't matter. You're still using your body to make money. This puritanical idea that the minute that sex is involved, we suddenly need to feel all icky about it is really, really awkward to me. I understand the problems with the sex industry. I understand there's a lot of predatory behavior within the sex industry, but at the same time, we're talking about somebody who does independent work on a virtual platform. That is the most far away removed type of sex work from the type that is considered largely predatory. So being told that for any kind of sex work, you are not allowed to go into a country, like, do you think they're going to do sex work in the country and that's what you're trying to stop? I mean, whether they do it or not, who cares? It's sex. What is the difference functionally between going, hey, if somebody goes, hey, buy me dinner and I'll sleep with you later tonight, versus somebody going, hey, pay me $50 and I'll sleep with you tonight? Either way, somebody got something out of that exchange. And to argue that one is in a special category versus the other, outside of it being work, I disagree. I'm not saying that every single time you go out on a date, it is transactional. I don't believe that. But I do believe that when we are talking about people having sex, if somebody has sex with you for money, or has sex with you because they think you're hot, or has sex with you because they want the sex, somebody is gaining something and somebody is getting the sex. Either way, it doesn't matter. The semantics don't matter. Who cares? This weird puritanical way we look at sex, it makes no sense. And again, we're talking about virtual sex as well. This is much more far removed from the type of things that people in the United States might actually be trying to police. Said getting paid for my body at a job is making me a capitalist whore? Basically. But let's go ahead and continue with the story itself. My reaction to the notice was honestly, what the hell? How is this possible? What I'm doing is completely legal. I was very upset and confused, and it baffled me, and it still baffled me completely, and it still does. Clement Lee, the Associate Director of Immigration Legal Services at the Urban Justice Center's Sex Workers Project, told Motherboard that sex workers confronting barriers to travel and obtaining visas is all too commonplace. Again, we have this stupid, puritanical, arbitrary view on sex where we go like, aha, the minute there was money involved, that sex is bad. That's the bad kind of sex. When someone applies for a tourist visa, and then again when they apply for an admission at an airport or border, U.S. immigration authorities analyze the traveler's immigration history and criminal history and look for any evidence to determine whether the person could be denied admission from the States. Inadmissibility is a legal concept that constitutes a broad array of immigration violations that can cover anything from polygamy to substance abuse to what immigration calls engaging in prostitution. Clement said, when sex workers have criminal convictions under laws that criminalize sex work, we regularly see those people may encounter intense questioning by immigration authorities to see if there exists any grounds to deny them entry. But even when people don't have criminal convictions related to sex work, they may be subject to similar scrutiny. The Sex Workers Project has seen an increase in individuals being stopped at borders because of their online presence, he said. Interrogated about whether they've engaged in prostitution. I don't care if you engaged in prostitution or a 50-person pile-up orgy. Who cares? It's sex. It's natural. Even if the person is ultimately allowed in the country, the hours of interrogation by immigration can be scary and humiliating. He and his Clement and his colleague often argue that their clients aren't ineligible for admission to the United States, even if they have engaged in sex work, because there's an additional requirement that the sex work must be continuous and regular and within the past 10 years, amongst others. Usually, we as lawyers can find some kind of way to argue that our clients' lived experiences as sex workers don't match the narrow, outmoded definition of sex work that immigration uses. But when a person has no lawyer, which is usually the case when being stopped by immigration authorities, folks can often be pressured into making admissions that hurt their chances of getting into the country. The Immigration Office, Heck said, has been unhelpful throughout this process. They've been very vague about it to me. It's honestly upsetting. To obtain a visitor visa, applicants typically must attend the interview with a consular officer where they review the application. When I was at an interview, I told the officer that everything as my Fansly is virtual reality content from a game called VR Chat. I do post IRL pictures of me via a paywall, and I do not meet anyone IRL from that platform, Heck said. The woman gave me a very dirty look when I explained everything to her. I told her it was a virtual game and I use a VR headset. She didn't understand anything I said. All she said to me is, "So do you meet these people on this website?" And I said, "No, absolutely not." The officer nodded. Heck said and told her that she was denied, but that her application would be processed. Then she received the letter with a decision to deny her entry, which she then posted on Twitter. The definitions immigration law uses to define prostitution are outmoded, according to Clement, defining the term as engaging in promiscuous sexual intercourse for hire. I'll go one step further. I understand, like, as a lawyer, you have to talk about things within the context of the law. I understand that. I get that. But as a person who's not a lawyer, who doesn't have to give a shit about any of that, can I just say that this is just stupid? Can I just say that this is dumb? My reasoning being, as I said before, is I see no functional difference between somebody using their body for capital gain, whether it's at a retail store or in a strip club or what have you. I don't see a difference. It's just you making money with your body, whether that's through manual labor or manual blowjobs. Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. So, I mean, to be fair, snow we're talking about snow leopards in the chat. Okay, fair enough. Red Joker says, I'm more concerned about abusive pimps than actual sex workers. That's where I would be as well. I don't care that people do sex work. People can do sex work. There are people who do sex work that I know and care for dearly. I don't care that people do sex work. I care that people aren't abused in the sex work industry. That's what I care about at the end of the day. Because online sex work almost by definition cannot include the sort of physical contact that is a prerequisite for sexual intercourse, doing exclusively online sex work on its own is unlikely to trigger the visa bar, Clement said. However, as a caveat to that, there's nothing legally preventing immigration authorities or the Department of State, which has very little evidence or no evidence at all, from presuming that a certain person who does online sex work may also do in-person sex work as well, leading to a denial of visa to the United States for engaging in prostitution. For tourist visas, the government can deny them for any reason at all or even without a reason. The State Department can deny a visa because they simply feel like it, he added, and there's remarkably little recourse for someone who is denied a tourist visa, usually even lacking in written explanations for the reasons of denial. Typically, people just have to wait and complete a new application, and hope for a different outcome next time. Some countries are more discriminatory than others against sex workers, including the United States and Japan. According to a 2019 policy brief by the Global Network of Sex Work Projects, many sex workers chose not to travel to these countries at all. They can apply for a waiver of inadmissibility, which can be costly and time-consuming, but even that can be denied. Heck says that I want to clear my name and get this resolved as it's unfair and not true. She received an email on Tuesday from the London Non-Immigrant Visa Office, so she's hopeful, but still confused. This whole ordeal is so unnecessary. Why do we criminalize one of the, and why do we stigmatize one of the most basic human functions? Sex. Why do we do that? I understand feeling like sex has a certain weight, and there are certain people who have trauma related to sex who feel like it would be better if they did not have to witness it or deal with a sexualized world as much as they do, and I can understand that. I can't. But at the same time, I don't agree. I think that when we are talking about sex, we are talking about something that most people, if they are not sex repulsed and asexual, most people either engage in or want to engage in. And we have a tendency of trying to pretend that we don't, of trying to do everything in our power to pretend that at the end of the day, we are not animals that have to survive by fucking each other. That is a thing we do to create life. But instead of treating the act of sex as this basic normal thing that we do to make more people, we treat it as this giant monumental thing that has to be policed by religions, that has to be policed by puritanical police, that has to be policed by countries and immigration offices. There's nothing wrong with having sex. There's nothing wrong with somebody you like handing you money because they like you and they want to hand you money. There's nothing wrong with taking those two concepts and now gluing them together. Somebody likes you and wants to pay you for sex. These things are not wrong. These things are not gross. These are just things that some people do. There are people who cannot get a partner easily, and their recourse when they cannot get a partner easily is to look to sex workers. There are sex workers who have a ton of trauma related to their bodies, and living through life as a sex worker is their way of working through that trauma. There are other sex workers who look at their sex work no different than a Walmart job at retail, for better or worse, where they see the things that they do as horribly abusive to their bodies and horribly abusive to their character because they live in a very hostile environment for themselves. There's every single type of person under the sun involved in the sex work industry, one way or another. The fact that we would demonize any of them for just the job they do doesn't make any sense. And of course, it gets even more ridiculous when you consider the virtual reality aspect of things. This is somebody who is doing work that is now so far divorced from what we used to consider basic sex work that it's ludicrous to use the same old definitions and same old laws in these ways. The types of people that immigration might be trying to prevent from getting into a country are not the types of people that get denied by this. And even then, an argument can be made that the types of people they are preventing from getting into the country aren't doing anything bad in the first place. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. This is a topic that has a lot of different angles to it. That's definitely not a joke about sex positions, but there's a lot of different angles to this topic, so maybe take some time and think about how you feel about this. What was your guttural reaction hearing sex worker denied entrance into the United States? With or without context added, let me know what that statement makes you feel and what solutions you might think of when that work goes. But that all said, hit the like button, subscribe, and as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.